ever wanted to know how you relate to others based on astrology? Well, today we are going to talk all about synastry by looking to Venus moon aspects. In this video, we will cover the conjunction and the opposition. And if you would like to see the sextile, trine, and square, that is available for our channel members below. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Hannah and welcome back, Cosmic Warriors. Before we do dive into today's video, if you want to learn more about astrology, then head on over to the Cosmic Check-In podcast. And if you would like to book a synastry reading with myself, then go to hannahselsewhere.com. I hope you enjoy the video. Let's do this. So first and foremost, there is an introduction video to synastry, so I recommend watching that. And then there are also aspect videos available. I recommend watching those videos first if you have not already, so you can gain some type of foundational knowledge. For the purpose of this series, I will focus on the 5 major aspects, though do make sure to look at degrees to get a clear picture. And also you can always book a synastry reading with myself and I can guide you based on your unique chart. Venus then, let's think about how Venus shows up in relationships. Venus points to love, attraction, what we value within our relationships, the beauty we experience, the harmony we seek, how we wish to reach win-win outcomes. However, Venus also indicates themes of jealousy, rivalry, pettiness, passive-aggressive tendencies, conflict avoidance, and superficiality, where we are more concerned about image than depth. And as for the moon, what the moon represents within our relationships, when we consider synastry, the moon points to our emotional needs and how we are nurtured within our relationships, as well as how we nurture and care for our lovers, our partners, our children, our family, and so on. The moon speaks to our feelings, our safety, protection, connection, affection, and nourishment. Our subconscious also comes in. Whilst the sun is so much about our conscious self, the moon speaks to our conditioning, our past, our triggers, reactions, responses. We might not show our moon when we really first get to know someone new, but it is the part of us that is to be cared about. Perhaps it is the thing that we should care about the most, some would argue. And this is perhaps often why 2 compatible moons in synastry are probably going to matter more than 2 compatible suns, but there's more nuance to that, okay? Just remember that. Also, this leads me on to the condition. This is why it matters, looking at 2 charts. Yes, the condition of Venus and the moon in your chart and the other person's chart, whoever is involved basically within the relationship. And do also look at progressed planets for more information, especially when we look at how relationships evolve over time. And this goes without saying, transits too. The following information can be applied to love, friendship, and family relationships. I will use examples throughout. Now, Venus moon aspects in synastry, they are so much about the connection between what we value and desire within relationships, being Venus, and then how we feel safe and secure within our relationships, being the moon. What we find appealing, beautiful, and attractive, Venus, as well as our capacity to empathize with our lover, our child, our spouse, the moon. How we seek win-win outcomes, very, very, very Venus, whilst we also consider how we react versus how we respond when conflict arises or when there is an imbalance, okay? That's very much the moon. The harmony we seek, Venus, and how our feelings are shared and validated, the moon. Jealousy and rivalry, Venus, mixed with hurt feelings, insecurity, a lack of receptivity, and depth, the moon. At best, here we see themes of creating memories, feeling safe and protected. There's this closeness present, mutual affection, and emotional harmony. But at worst, we see themes of unhealthy attachment, emotional conflict, unmet needs, lack of depth, lashing out, and a tight grip that does not allow us to grow. All right, let's explore Venus conjunct the moon in Synastry. This is essentially the fusion of one person's values, beauty, desires, and comforts with another person's emotional needs, inner security, and feelings, a person's emotional habits, those habitual patterns, right? As the Venus person sweet talks the moon person comforts the Venus person. As the Venus person relates to the moon person about their private world, the moon person supports the Venus person for their style, beauty, their taste, their aesthetic. This is a relationship that may be based heavily on trust, depth, and understanding. So much receptivity as both parties are willing to invite the other to share their affection. Both parties as well might feel like they can create a safe space for their feelings and their emotions, their values, their desires, and so on. The Venus person may know intuitively how to comfort the moon person when they are going through something that may be challenging or difficult. And then the moon person may know how to show support when the Venus person is feeling insecure. There is a relatability here that is somewhat gentle and comforting. However, a challenge is when the moon person is overly attached or defensive, or when the Venus person is overly superficial or passive. The moon person might dominate by having their emotional needs met, as the Venus person dominates by having their desires and their values validated. The moon person might view the Venus person as being too self-serving, as the Venus person sees the moon person as being whiny and childish. At the same time, both parties might avoid confrontation or conflict, and so tensions can build, resentment too. Sweeping things under the rug here is not going to help them evolve and grow. So let's think about a couple of examples. Let's go with Venus in Capricorn with a moon in Capricorn. All right, so this type of partnership looks at how a Venus person might be able to validate the emotions and the feelings of a moon in Capricorn person. So if, for example, a moon in Capricorn person says, I need to work through this and I need to think about this practically, the Venus and Capricorn individual might be able to relate, see where they're coming from, maybe assist them, help them in some way, or they might be able to encourage, compliment, right? Try and cooperate in a way where the moon and Capricorn person feels empowered, they feel respected. And then equally, the moon and Capricorn individual might be able to assist the Venus in Capricorn, such as them being able to comfort them whenever they might feel a lot of pressure or they're feeling the stress of a lot of responsibility. The moon in Capricorn actually might be able to empathize with that because they know a thing or two about what that's like, what that feels like. So this is what we can see between this couple, this friend, within this friendship between these friends. Maybe this can apply to a work scenario as well. Naturally though, yes, what I'm also trying to get at here is there can be this tendency of both parties trying to dominate. So it's important for the Venus and Capricorn individual not to try to dominate by having their desires and their values validated, even during times when the moon and Capricorn individual, they maybe need space, they need their own time, they're going through their own process. And then at the same time, the moon and Capricorn person being cautious of trying to dominate by their needs being met, even when the Venus and Capricorn individual maybe has their own stuff going on as well. So this is maybe one scenario to consider. Then let's take a Venus in Aries individual with a moon in Aries individual. So with this one, the support and the connection, the relatability is more geared towards, okay, what are their passions? What are their goals? What do they get excited about? We do see some themes of both parties being spontaneous, quite childlike together. They can feel that comfort, you know, especially from the moon in Aries. The moon in Aries may feel somewhat comforted and supported by a Venus in Aries because, for example, they might be able to have their space, they'll have their own time, their independence will be respected. And then at the same time, a moon in Aries can comfort the Venus in Aries individual too. They may be a big cheerleader for them. They may know how to hype them up or how to support them in really enthusiastic and encouraging ways. Naturally, at the same time, with this particular partnership, I think the domination side of this could manifest as the Venus and Aries individual making their values, so the goals they value, all about themselves. Of course, Aries can be like this, very much self-focused. Not necessarily in this intentional way, but they can be maybe blinded to this or unaware of this. And then equally, the moon in Aries could make it be about, okay, their needs. This is what I want. This is what I'm feeling. And then that can be where they try to bring more of the focus onto themselves. So I guess a way to think about this for this couple or this friendship, whoever it is for both parties not to go super within themselves and to try to consider what the other person needs too. I hope you are enjoying this video so far, and if you are, then please be sure to give the video a like and subscribe for more if you haven't already. And if you would like to learn more about astrology, you can always pick up a copy of my astrology cheat sheets. The links are down below. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on to Venus opposite the moon in Synastry. This right here is an attraction based on a few things: security, comfort, kindness, empathy, pleasure, sensuality, and acceptance. But we also see a struggle, right? This combo requires effort to overcome any tensions and struggles. As the Venus person is pulled in by the moon person's moods and emotional safety, the moon person is pulled in by the Venus person's desires and financial values. But if the Venus person pulls away from the moon person's emotional needs, the moon person, they could become defensive, they might retreat, or they may become emotional. And if the moon person pulls away from the Venus person's love and affection, the Venus person might withhold their love or feel hurt by what feels like a rejection, a rejection of their love. This then causes an emotional disconnection as both parties do not feel as if they are getting their needs met within the relationship. Therefore, it is important for the Venus person to value the comforts of the moon person and for the moon person to accept the physical security of the Venus person. This can lead to a more long-lasting relationship. After all, they can help each other with their blind spots. They can assist each other with the parts of themselves they do not see, hopefully leading to a greater connection and a lot more closeness. For instance, the moon person can learn from the Venus person how to not make so many things about their emotional needs, right? Seeing that relationships also require compromise, give and take. And then the Venus person can learn from the moon person how to validate their feelings without it having to be about finding a common ground at the same time, right? The moon person's upset does not have to automatically be the Venus person's issue. And the Venus person's desires for harmony are not always a personal attack. Whenever these individuals can work on these particular concerns or issues that arise within the relationship, this is where we can see a more long-lasting bond, a more long-lasting connection. Let's think about a couple of examples. Let's go with Venus in Aquarius with Moon in Leo. All right. First thing I'm going to say here is this particular relationship could be met with some resistance from both parties, such as the Venus in Aquarius individual becoming frustrated by the moon in Leo whenever their needs are not met. So the Venus in Aquarius could look at it as the moon in Leo as being dramatic. They're making things about themselves. They're being over the top. This type of stuff could happen. And then equally, the moon in Leo could look at it as, you don't care about me. You care more about yourself, or you're just going to detach. That's so unfeeling, unkind, unemotional. We want to be mindful of this stuff. So within this particular relationship, hopefully the Venus in Aquarius can try to empathize with the moon in Leo by seeing that actually it's not a case of them being over the top or super dramatic. It's just that they need to express themselves. They have their emotional needs, and they're not going to just play small or act like something isn't a big deal when it is a big deal to them. You know, it may not be a big deal to the Venus in Aquarius from their perspective, but it is to the moon in Leo in terms of how they feel. And then at the same time, the moon in Leo can maybe look to the Venus in Aquarius and try to empathize in that maybe the Venus in Aquarius, they're so caught up in their head, they have a lot going on mentally, or maybe it's that they're trying to approach things from a bigger picture view, and they're not so involved in getting into all of the deep emotional stuff in a way where it doesn't feel necessary in their mind, because they might be trying to think things through a bit more logically or rationally. And it's not that this stuff is bad, right? They're trying to maybe approach things just from a different perspective, a different point of view. And then equally, their independence is going to matter to them. Their freedom is going to matter to them. So if they ever feel like their freedom is being taken away, or like they're being suffocated, especially by a moon in Leo's emotional needs, that's when the Venus in Aquarius could pull away. So again, it's basically trying to find a common ground between these two perspectives. Another example here is Venus in Pisces with the moon in Virgo. So the moon in Virgo individual is more likely going to compartmentalize their emotions, and they're going to process their emotions maybe in a way that the Venus in Pisces feels is a bit unusual or odd, and it could be in their view. Or the Venus in Pisces could look at the moon in Virgo as being a bit too cynical, or a bit too critical or harsh about things, a bit too nitpicky. At the same time, the moon in Virgo person could look across at the Venus in Pisces and think that they're far too sacrificing, that they are very sensitive to almost to a fault, or like their way of dealing with things is just so different to the moon in Virgo's way of dealing with things. So they can look at the Venus in Virgo or Venus in Pisces as overly messy, or as far too fluid, like far too flexible and adaptable. Hopefully within this relationship, a Venus in Pisces can more so look to the moon in Virgo as, okay, well, what can I maybe learn here? Maybe I'm learning from the moon in Virgo how to set a healthy routine, or how to not put so much pressure on myself to be everything to everybody all the time. And I have to be quite discerning. I have to be quite selective. And then equally, the moon in Virgo could look across at the Venus in Pisces and consider, well, yeah, okay, maybe I wouldn't do something that way, but instead of being overly harsh or critical, how can I put myself into their shoes, or how can I try to empathize, but not to an extent, of course, where it's overboard, it's going too far. It's being able to basically learn a little bit from the other without it resulting in them acting within the extremes of each of the signs. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes today's video all about Venus moon aspects in Synastry. So looking at the conjunction and the opposition. If you did enjoy this video, you can find the sextile, the trine, and the square available for our channel members below exclusively for them. Yes, you'll get access to all members only videos over there. To join, just click the join button below. Though in the meantime, I hope that this video has taught you more about Synastry. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!